Today I have decided that we are going to discuss the topic, why did I get married? Why did I get married? Now, it comes up from a session that I was having. There was this particular couple that I have been working with. They often had challenges. Almost every weekend I was like fighting fires, trying to intervene in their challenges, until I realized that every time we try to fix this area, the other side breaks, and then we fix this other side. And then I suggested to them, as I often do to many other couples who have not had a strong foundation in terms of their relationship, I said, let's just restart this marriage and rebuild it on the pillars, on the foundation of marriage. Let me teach you what marriage is all about, the basics about marriage. And that's what we did. And things began to change when we changed the approach. But I remember this one day, after we explained what marriage is and what a commitment of marriage means, and after doing all of that explanation of marriage as a covenant and what does a covenant mean and the commitments that one needs to have, the lady said, she said to me, if I knew what I now know about marriage, I wouldn't have gotten married. She says, if I knew what I now know about marriage, I would not have gotten married. Technically, she was saying to me, I didn't understand marriage when I got married. So technically, I got into marriage based on false pretense, based on false information, without really understanding what I was getting myself into. It is interesting that it was not the last time that somebody told me that that when they finally understood what the commitment of marriage requires from them, if they really knew, they would not have gotten married. And it brought me an idea that it does seems like many of us, many people might have gotten into marriage without fully understanding what it is, that somehow we didn't prepare the people enough for an institution called marriage, for the challenges that marriage comes up with. I try the best I can with my candidates that go through premarital counseling to grill them, to fully understand, for them to fully understand what marriage is all about. And one of the things that really warms my heart is when I meet some of them, and sometimes with their little babies, and they said, oh, you made marriage to sound so tough, but we are enjoying it. It's wonderful. It's nice. And I like that. I like the idea of them telling me that, instead of saying, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell us that this is what we are going to face? What the challenges that are there in marriage. But the fact of the matter is, there are many today who are asking themselves the question, why did I get married? It is a rhetorical question that many of those who are married are asking themselves. They are questioning the decision that they have taken as things fall apart. The question is, why did I get married? As the sweetness turns into bitterness, the question comes, why did I get married? When the love that once you cherished is no longer there, and there is resentment and bitterness that remains, people ask themselves, why did I get married? When those who were lovebirds have become sworn bitter enemies, the question comes up, why did I get married? Was I drunk when I got married? What was wrong with me? Why didn't I see this for what it is? As the pain seems unbearable, the question comes up, why did I get married? Sometimes it's the results of abuse, neglect, ill treatment, unfaithfulness that leads one to ask the question, why did I get married? Sometimes it is unresolved conflicts, hatred, bitterness that leads one to ask the question, why did I get married? And I would like to imagine that divorce is an unfortunate attempt to respond to the question, why did I get married? Now, the question I want us to consider for a moment, and the issue I want us to consider is the reasons for getting married. Now, we get married for diverse of reasons. We get married for the strangest of reasons. We get married not for a uniform solution, for a uniform response. There are so many reasons that brings us to the altar of marriage. Some we get married because we have found someone that we love, that we want to spend the rest of our lives with. You are tired of missing each other and tired of sending each other good morning message. You just want to say it to somebody next to you. You are tired of meeting and parting. Now you just want to meet, never to part again. That is the reason why others get married. Why did you get married? Some get married because you want to start a family. You want to start a production plant for children. You want to start having babies and having little creatures around the house, and you thought maybe the best way to run such a production plant, it is to have another person you can stay with who can help you in both producing and rearing and raising such offsprings that will come out of you. Why did I get married? Some get married because it is the next logical step. After I finish high school, going to university, finding a job and starting to work and buying a car and buying a house, it is the next logical step. What else do you expect from me? It is what life demands as a logical step of what I must do. Why did I get married? People get married because I want to fulfill God's purpose on earth. For the book said, it is not good for a man to be alone. So I want to do what God says. I want to fulfill that which God has said in multiplying and filling the whole universe. So I want to fulfill God's purpose on earth. Why did I get married? Why do we get married? We get married because it's expected of us, of society. Society expects us to get married. So if you don't get married, people start wondering what's wrong with you. Maybe there is something wrong. Why are you not getting married? The society has this expectation of us to get married. Sometimes we want to prove that we are not gay or any other such. And we do that to fulfill this expectation of society. Did I get married? Sometimes we get married because of pressure. After you've been a bridesmaid for 10 weddings, and you know every single step and every single wedding song, you have marched this way, you have marched that way, and you have done all of those things, the pressure is high. There is a pressure that when are you getting married? And there is a pressure at home. The uncles are asking, when are you getting married? The aunts are asking, when are you getting married? As if that's not enough. When you get to church, there are deaconesses and deacons who are asking, when is yours? When is your wedding? Wedding. And so sometimes we get married because of pressure. Pressure is high. Pressure is high. Why did we get married? Sometimes we get married because of pregnancy. Oh, you suddenly realize you missed a month, and some of the marriage proposal has to do, and I have seen the debate in the social media of people asking whether a woman can kneel down with a knee on the ground and propose to the other to say, will you marry me? But the fact of the matter is that women do propose, and they have been proposing for a very long time, and the way they've been proposing marriage has not been by kneeling down on their knee and giving the ring to the man, as the men often do, or as some women have been doing in recent times, but they've been making proposal for marriage through pregnancy. When the call comes up, or I want us to meet, and when you meet and it says, I have skipped my month, and now it is almost a full month that I have skipped. I am pregnant. And the statement, I am pregnant, suggests to say, marry me. Now, and I have said this when I was addressing young people on issue of dating and courtship and premarital sex, that sometimes this business of dating will make you to marry the person you have no intention to marry, because suddenly the person is pregnant. And because they are pregnant and we are church people, we do a hush-hush wedding to cover it up all so that we don't get embarrassed even in the church. Even if it comes out, as long as we're getting married, it looks fine. So sometimes we get married because of sex, not for sex, because sex has forced us to get married, or unprotected sex. Why did we get married? Oh, sometimes we get married to please the family. They like him so much. He is such a gentleman. He is so, the family loves him, or the family loves her. They keep on talking about her, and if it is back in the village, they talk about, oh, Makoti, hey, Makoti this and Makoti that. The family, to please them, you finally meet, marry that deacon in the church, or that summer school superintendent that they so much love. Why did we get married? We get married because we want financial support or help. Sometimes marriage has nothing to do with love or any other things, or the will of God and so on and so forth, but it just has to do with finances. I consider my financial situation, and I realize that if I can connect myself with you in marriage, my financial well-being will be better. So we get married sometimes to deal with our financial or precarious financial situation. So you are my financial helpmeet, which meets me at my situation of financial need. Why do we get married? Oh, sometimes we get married to prove that we can also do it. Sometimes people get married because they want to make a point. They want to show that they also can do it. And I will never forget a situation of two people who had kind of divorced and separated, divorced, and one decided to get married and splash out this engagement that I'm going to get married, and the other one says, I can also do it. It is like the old saying that if he can did it, I can also did it. So because he decided to get married, do you think you are the only one who can get married? I can also do it. So I'm going to prove a point. So nothing to do with any other reason we've mentioned, but just to make a point that I can also do it. Why did I get married? Sometimes because of the fear of being alone. Sometimes people are fearful of being alone, fearful of spending the winter of their lives all by themselves with nobody, sometimes if they are not well, to bring them their slippers or to bring them their coat or their little blanket. So the fear of being alone, not because I am into any of the other reasons that are there, but loneliness can make someone to decide to get married. Why did I get married? Because I want to be happy. Now, if there is one reason that is problematic, it is that. And it has to do with the fact that there is no happiness in marriage. You can't get married to be happy. And you won't find happiness in marriage. There is no such thing. It's only in fairy tales where they said they got married and live happily ever after. It's only in fairy tales. Yeah. And in real life, you won't find happiness in marriage. In reality, as I often say, bring your own happiness into marriage. Before you think of getting married, go to the man called Jesus. Yes, and let him give you joy, peace, and happiness. Yes, and as you come into marriage, bring your own happiness, and you say to your partner, I brought my happiness. Where is yours? Let's have a buffet of happiness. Bring and bride. Bring and bride, yes, as the audience say. It is important that you bring your own and contribute into your own. But if you are miserable and sad and you think marriage will make you happy, forget it. Marriage will not make you happy. Marriage has no power and ability and capacity to make you happy. Happiness comes from the Lord, and you must bring it into the relationship. In fact, it is idolatry to think that your partner can make you happy because you are expecting him or her to do what only God can do for you. Why did I get married? We get married to legalize sex or to have sex without a condom. So there are many who feel that getting married will be a situation of opportunity to deal with the passions that they feel within, that they struggled to be able to have those particular needs met. So they believe that marriage will be a way of legalizing sex or dealing with the guilt if they are doing it outside marriage. Now, and important as that can be, and true as it can be, but we need to realize that marriage is more than just sex. marriage, you see, people don't spend all their time in marriage sleeping. There are other things to be done. There are dishes to be washed. There's floors to be mopped. There is laundry to be done. There is cooking, and there is a whole lot of things, gardening, and a whole lot of other activities. So it is important for us to realize that married people, saying to young people, married people, people who are married don't spend their time sleeping. They spend their time doing all other activities, and if the other activities that makes marriage to flow are not done or done properly, even this one activity you are getting into marriage for will not happen. Now, as we look into the idea and the concept of marriage, we need to realize that marriage is not a supermarket. It's not a supermarket of life that you can come in and pick and choose what you like. Those who came here for sex, they can just come and pick up sex and go home. Those who came here for happiness, pick up happiness and go home. Those who came here for because they are lonely, pick up something companion and go home, and so on and so on and so forth. Marriage is not a supermarket you can pick and choose. Marriage is a complicated machinery. Let me start by saying we need to realize that marriage is not an achievement. Sure. Marriage can be very confusing because it is one institution where you start by celebrating that which you have not yet achieved. You get a certificate of things that you have never worked for.
Sure.
In reality, there should not have been a wedding celebration when you get married. In fact, maybe we should have been waiting for 10 years. And after 10 years, then we can have a celebration of the 10 years of what you've achieved in marriage. But somehow it's confusing because we start by celebrating it. We start by eating the cakes. We start by dancing and celebrating that which we have not even begun.
Sure.
In fact, we celebrate marriage by faith. We celebrate marriage by the view that hoping that it will work out. And sometimes after we celebrate it, 3 months down the line, that celebration sort of turns into bitterness. I mean, it's hard. Sometimes we buy brand new suit to come to attend weddings, and we buy them on credit, and even before we finish paying, people are already divorcing. They give us a gift, whatever thing that you must go to the particular shops, and we go there and we're supposed to pay 6 months for the things because these are fancy places with no cheap things, and before we finish and they're already divorcing. Sometimes I feel we need to have the right to go and get our gifts back, or sue them for the wedding suit we have not finished paying. Now, marriage gives you a title you have not earned, gives you responsibility that sometimes we have not prepared for. Probably if we were doing this right, and maybe one day we will do it right, we should have been training people so much about marriage so that by the time they get married, the certificate we're giving them is that they've achieved, they understand the responsibility they're getting themselves into, instead of taking people who are novices, people who are blank, who don't know anything, and we get them into marriage and we celebrate their ignorance. The fact is, marriage is complicated. Like a factory that produces some product. There is a lot that goes into what is called marriage. In fact, I always say to young people, marriage is spelled W-O-R-K.
Yeah.
Marriage is work.
Yes, sir.
It's a lot of work. If it's gonna work out, it needs you to work for it. Marriage is like a tree, starting with a seed that needs to be watered, to be nurtured, and it takes time to produce the fruit. And the problem with marriage is that many a times people plant the seed today and they want to eat the fruit tomorrow. But that's not how marriage is all about. Marriage takes time. If you plant a mango tree, it will take time to water it. Take time before you can end the fruits. But when it really the tree has grown and it's grown enough, then you start having fruits without having to water again. Like a baby, marriage starts by crawling, standing and falling and walking and falling, and eventually it starts to run, and in no time it can fly. Marriage is a character building institution. Marriage tests and exposes our inner being. Marriage reveals us for who we are. It exposes our weaknesses and our faults to one another. As somebody says, marriage is a litmus test for our relationship with God. It is a workshop where our characters are worked on in order to produce better Christians. For it exposes these weaknesses within us, and instead of us justifying those weaknesses, it is important that we work through those weaknesses so that through that process it can correct us, build us, and fix us, and make us a better person. Just this past weekend, I was talking to a couple, and I was saying that no one of you is perfect, and somehow you need to converge, compromise, bend towards each other. And the lady says, no, I am fine. It's only him who needs to come to where I am. And that's a failure to understand what the institution is doing to us. It's working on us, putting us into the right line, and also in accordance to the will of God. One of the challenge of marriages is a challenge of expectations. Challenge of expectations. The higher the expectation, the bigger the potential of disappointments. The lower the expectations are, the less disappointed people are. And people don't seem to realize that Christianity by its nature creates a lot of expectations in terms of conduct in marriage. And when those expectations are not met, Christians tend to be the most disappointed more than any other people. It is strange to realize that it is said that marriages of believers and unbelievers, they seem to end, the divorce rate is more or less the same between believers and unbelievers. And strange enough, it is said among atheists, those who don't believe in existence of God at all, their marriages seems to thrive even more than those of Christians. Sure. Now, and obviously we cannot ignore the idea of the great controversy, how the devil has to attack, and he attacks Christians and attacks those who worship God more than those who are already in his own side. But I also want to make sure that we realize that the expectations of a godly Christian marriage also has an issue which leads to disappointment. There is another debate of another day, the fact that many of us who are Christians, we might be Christians at church, but we fail to conduct ourselves as Christians at home, which contributes to the failures. But I just want us to deal on the issue of expectations. These expectations that we create in our minds, this dream of this wonderful Christian marriage, faithful, caring, supportive, some of these expectations are not realistic. They're not based in the real world. It's what we create, pie in the skies, is what we create in our own minds. And sometimes we fail to bring our expectations to the real world because our expectation is what drives us towards marriage. It's the excitement that drives us. It's almost like a drug. Sometimes we refuse to see the reality. We don't want to spoil the moment by worrying about what might go wrong. As much as we know that there are other couples that have had challenges, we think it cannot happen to us because we love each other more than any other person. Our love is real. Our love is strong. It's solid. So that will not happen to us because we are different. We are strong. We are committed. And so we create this reality in our mind which sometimes is detached from the real reality of life. Now, what is the reality of marriage? The reality of marriage is that we live in a fallen and broken world. We live in a world infested by sin and sinfulness. Marriage has to be lived in a broken world with broken people, broken relationships. So marriage by its nature cannot escape the brokenness of society. If this world is broken with potholes and this marriage wonderful machine, maybe it's a Ferrari, a Maserati of some sort, has to be driven in a broken world with potholes that can swallow a car, potholes that swallow the car disappears underneath. So that wonderful marriage cannot escape the brokenness. It is because of that even that marriage will be affected by the broken. About it then, even the people who are riding in that car are broken. They come from broken society. So the brokenness, even in their way that they drive in the context of their own brokenness. So marriage cannot escape brokenness. So as much as we have this ideal situation, the fact that our world is full of sin, and sin has affected and contaminated every aspect of our society. It has affected our conduct, our behavior. It has affected our relationship, our commitment. It has affected everything. So look at marriage within that context of the brokenness, of the sinfulness of society that itself cannot escape. Now, one writer says, the biggest surprise in marriage is not a surprise at all, or should not have been a surprise at all, because the biggest surprise in marriage is to realize that you are married to a sinner. That's the biggest surprise. What makes us shocked, what makes us angry, what makes us bitter is to wake up one day and to realize that I am married to a sinner. Now, that should not have been a surprise at all. We should have known that we are getting married to a sinner.
Yeah.
And we are sinners at us all, also. The only thing we didn't know is what brand of a sinner the other person is.
Yeah.
But we should be sure that is a sinner. For some of you out there who are not yet married, be sure of this one thing: you are going to marry a sinner, because angels in heaven we have never seen don't get married, and they don't marry. So you are not even going to get one stray angels coming down here to marry you.
Sure.
Even if you had to marry that angel, that you are going to contaminate that angel, and that angel was going to become sinful also. So let's understand, we're going to marry a sinner. The only thing we don't know is the brand. Ask yourself about that person that you love and you care about. Ask yourself, what brand of a sinner is she? What brand is he? So in marriage, as soon as we discover the brand of the sinner that the other person is, we want to get out of marriage. As soon as we recover that this one's brand is a liar, this brand is unfaithfulness, uncaring person, unloving, and so on and so on. This brand is a cheater, is one who just cheats on you. As soon as you discover that, that sometimes they lie. People who lie about nothing, they lie about things they're not supposed to lie about, but they just lie. I mean, you ask them, the slice of bread you ate, was it a brown or white one? They will lie. They will lie about things that they should not lie about. That's the brand. So we need to realize that when you discover your brand of a sinner, instead of saying, I want to get out of marriage, I want to end marriage, you should be saying, I got you. So this is your brand. This is your brand of a sinner. So now I know what I'm working on. Now I know how I need to deal with you now. I need to see how I can help you out of your weakness, because sooner or later you are going to discover the brand of a sinner that I am. So if you think about marriage and divorce, technically, if one is divorcing because the person is uncaring, or maybe the person is cheating on you, technically you are actually saying, I don't like the brand of a sinner with you, I'm gonna divorce you, and since I still like marriage, I'm gonna go and get a different brand of a sinner. But in reality, you are still gonna get another sinner. So in what you are supposed to be doing is to work with the sinner that you have and say, God, give me strength to deal with this hypocrite. God, give me strength to deal with this unfaithful person. Give me strength to save this sinner from sin. Because when you look into marriage, as I often say, marriage should be viewed as a mission field. Marriage should be seen as a place where we are deployed to evangelize our spouses. It's a mission field. Now, some of you out there have tough mission fields, difficult mission fields, but God knows He trusts you with the strength to deal with that particular tough mission field. Some of your mission fields don't come home, don't sleep home for 2 weeks non-stop. That's a tough mission field. So all of us have been assigned different mission fields that we need to work on. We need to evangelize. We need to try to reach out. We need to try to win. And these mission fields, we don't win them through verses. We don't go to your mission field and says, you know that you are a sinner. The Bible talks about a sinner like you. No, we don't evangelize people in marriage through Bible verses. We evangelize them through love. And it is that love, that unconditional love, that embrace that embraces the other person that eventually wins them up. You see, the Bible says, love your enemies. And as I often say to couples, if your partner has hurt you so much and has frustrated you, has humiliated you, go to your partner and you say, you are my enemy. I want to declare that I am sleeping with the enemy. And after you do that, you go back to the Bible and you read, and the Bible says, love your enemies. Then you can go to your spouse and says, I was reading the Bible, and the Bible says I must love people like you. Love my enemies. So, and you see, people in marriage like to do tit for tat. But how do you retaliate to someone who is just loving you? What do you do when somebody's not arguing with you but just loving you and embracing you? You can't even say, oh, why are you loving me so much? You know what I've done? Oh, why so much love? No, love has got a power to immobilize people. Love has got a power to conquer people. Love has got a power to win eventually. So whatever challenges, whatever trials, I say to young people, don't be afraid of getting married. As long as you know why, the right reasons to get married, God, if you walk with God, God will give you the strength to deal with whatever brand of a sinner that you will find along the way. And through love, you can be able to work on that sinner, transform that sinner, and at the end of the day, both of you can be saved into God's kingdom. May the Lord bless you and keep you until next time. Amen.
That was Mashudu Ravhengani, proudly brought to you by Living Power Ministries. You can find us at livingpower.org.za or on WhatsApp at +27 78 215 5737. Living Power, empowering mankind to unleash its full potential.